Hi, I'm Kelly March from McNeely.com. Thank you for joining us. Today we have a real treat for you. We have an interview with Daphné Baiwir, the director of the new documentary King on Screen. Now, this documentary goes into deep detail. It not only talks about the adaptations, but it also has interviews with their directors and takes us behind the scenes. This is a must-see for King fans or anybody who's a fan of cinema. Check it out.
Everybody who hasn't read a Stephen King book has still seen a Stephen King movie.
It all started with Carrie.
Seeing her burn everything down at the end, but you're watching it and it's thrilling.
Creepshow had a massive impact.
It completely traumatized me.
Aren't you going to say hello?
Pet Sematary is a great movie.
Misery is one of my favorites.
Stephen King writes human beings, and then he puts them in phantasmagorical situations.
Instead of setting everything in big cities, he chooses locations that are identifiable for everybody.
It's an idealized America, but then it's ripped apart and sent to hell.
When I think of my favorite Stephen King movies, I think of Stand By Me and The Shawshank Redemption.
I remember being shocked that someone who I associated so much with horror was capable of creating something so beautiful.
Much of Stephen King's work seems to be about how we treat each other.
Whether it's the family in Cujo or what's happening in The Shining between Jack and Wendy.
This isn't like it's coming. This is about what's here. That's the legend of Stephen King, is able to see things in the future that the average person can't.
He's been such a mirror for pop culture, but now he is his own pop culture.
Hi.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. All right, so tell me about this documentary of yours, King on Screen.
So yeah, King on Screen was a documentary that we started 3 years ago. It was made during, through the COVID actually. And we had the great chance of meeting 27 directors who adapted Stephen King stories on screen. And that was a great adventure.
Right, it's fantastic. And who doesn't love Stephen King? I mean, really, he really is the master of horror. And so what made you want to make this documentary? Yeah,
absolutely. Is incredible in horror. And we wanted to make a documentary quite different, because there were documentaries about his life or about his books. But I thought it could be interesting, to have the director's point of view because of their work and the process of adapting a book. And I thought it could be interesting because Stephen King is the most adapted living author. So we really went into it in 2019, and we thought, well, we should give it a try and reach to some of the directors to see if they're okay to participate. And we sent 10 emails, and the next morning we had 10 yes. So we thought, okay, let's do this then.
Right, it's fantastic. And, the filmmakers that are interviewed in the documentary are the cream of the crop. I mean, they are really like the best of the best. And to hear them go into detail about everything involving Stephen King, from filming to adaptation to, special effects to behind the scene, it really is a fantastic documentary.
Oh. Thank you so much. Yeah, we were thrilled to have the chance to speak to so many great directors. and different generations. It's something that is quite interesting to see, because you have directors that adapted Stephen King that are in their 70s now, and some of them that are very much younger, like Josh Boone, Vincenzo Natali. They are the new generation somehow. And so I thought it was great because it shows how Stephen King is, he's like, I don't know how to put it, but he's completely true. You can have his work through time, see his work through time, and it's still working,
Right. Well, I have to ask you, what Stephen King movie was your first?
The first Stephen King movie I saw was The Shining. I was very young. I was 10. And I was a little bit disappointed seeing it after reading the book, because there were so many great things that I loved in the book and I didn't see on screen. So it was kind of this kind of experience when you're like, okay, for sure I was afraid, but I was a little bit disappointed. And then I saw The Green Mile and I was completely hooked because I think it's an amazing film. It's so human and it's so well done. I mean, it's an incredible movie. So yeah,
This is absolutely brilliant. And I've been a fan of Stephen King, like you, since I was about 10, when I probably shouldn't have been reading his books and watching his movies. But he really is fantastic. And I love that you get so many opinions and views from all the famous Stephen King adapted directors, like, just all of them. There's so many great ones. Which was kind of your look on Stephen King going into the documentary, and did it change afterwards?
I think it didn't change because I've always thought that Stephen King's character, for example, are very interesting, because he writes his character. They are never perfect. They are very complex characters, and you can see how many layers there are in them. So it's really interesting to dig into his way of writing, because you can see how it's never black and white. You are always in the between, and it's something that I think is very interesting, deeply interesting, and it's something that really interested the directors as well when they were working on the adaptations. It's something that they really point out, and that it's one of the reasons that they wanted so bad to adapt a Stephen King book, because they knew that they could work with the character. And it's something very important when you are watching a movie, because if you're not connected to the characters, it won't work. Even if everything is perfect, technically, if you don't connect with the characters, the experience is kind of ruined. Yeah.
Right. And he has such a way of writing women too. And that is touched on in the documentary, but I've always kind of noticed that, and how he plays on, how people are treated. I love that little connection he makes, like with the people in the grocery store, during the Miss, or the kids in Stand By Me, and he's an incredible writer. And like I said, the documentary is fantastic, and it covers so much. And I think that's a lot that we don't get to see these days, is back then, the footage from behind the scenes, like when they were filming, The Green Mile. That's, another thing that this documentary really gives fans, and that's important.
Yeah, we really wanted to have this kind of behind the scene look, because For sure, in the documentary, we talk a lot about Stephen King's work, but also about the work of the directors, and being able to find behind-the-scene footage of The Mist or of The Green Mile or even Creepshow. Those footage are really rare. You don't see them a lot. So it was something that we really wanted to have in the documentary, because you have an insight in the director's work and sometimes in his mind as well, to see how he works, how a director works and how he's figuring how to make his film. So it's really something we wanted to add to the film, not having only anecdotes about the film, but finding, some kind of balance to have both.
Right. Okay, I'm going to ask you a tough question. What's your favorite Stephen King adaptation ever?
That's a good question, and for me it will be the Green Mile, because I think this film is completely, you could watch it like 10 times, and each time you are moved, in the same way. And it's like 3 hours long, but you just love it because it takes the time it needs to the story to work. And it's something very special. And there's not a scene that you could remove from this film. I mean, it's really well done. It's really, the actors are amazing. It's an incredible film. For me, it's a masterpiece. Yeah.
It really is. And I have to agree with you, because very few movies have this effect on me, but I cried like a baby. Like through most of the movie, I just cried.
Yeah, it's incredibly powerful, I think, and the message it gives is just amazing. And I think it's one of the best films. Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, now I have to ask this. If you could just snap your fingers and somebody making an adaptation of one of his other stories, what would it be?
I think Chucky could be great, because it's a book that is not that well known. When you talk to a lot of people, they often talk about The Shining, Christine, It, but Chucky is quite discreet, and I think it's a great one because of a lot of things. First, the main character is amazing, and he's having like this existential crisis, which is kind of interesting, and at the same time, visually it could be great, with the paintings and all those, visuals that are put into the book. So I think it would be the best one to adapt, and it could be a great change, because you see a lot of the movies that were previously made are remake now, So it could be great to see one of the books, that have never been adapted, to see it now on screen. Yeah.
Right. Well, and like I said, I've been a fan for a long time, but I have always, for the past 10 years or so, I've hated remakes and, all that for a while, but I have always wanted an updated version of Rose Red.
Yeah, that could be great to have another version of Rose Red as well, because it was released only on TV, so having something on the big screen could be great. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's hope that some of the directors that are in this documentary are listening to this conversation. Hint, hint.
Absolutely.
Love to see that. And there's so many Stephen King movies that are possible, because there's so many books and short stories, and it's just endless, and I'm not complaining about it. So,
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing to see how prolific he is, because they were I think more than 80 adaptations when you put together the miniseries, the films, and so yeah, that's pretty amazing. Yeah,
That's a lot.
yeah.
And I couldn't imagine being like, a fly sitting on the wall watching him write these books. I would love to see his process, but I'm very happy to see the director's processes and making these films, which, is great. And another thing about your documentary, I love the intro.
Oh,
it's very clever with those little nods to the different stories. It's really, I really like that.
Oh, great. Yeah, we really worked hard on that one because we wanted to go like to go really deep into the process of, okay, if we are doing this Stephen King universe, in one street, we should have actors, who played in previous adaptations. And we thought, okay, that could be great. Let's do it. Let's go for it. And yeah, at the end, we were really thrilled because we got to shoot with Jeffrey Deman and other great actors directly in Maine in February, which is quite a challenge to shoot a film in Maine at that season. But it was thrilling to do it.
Oh, it's fantastic. And all right, tell our readers why they should watch this documentary.
Well, I think that if you like Stephen King, or if you don't know him at all, I think.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Sorry.
I think either if you know Stephen King or if you don't know him, I think you will be able to watch the documentary. If you are a huge fan, you will find thrilling to hear directors who adapted him. And if you don't know him at all, it's also a documentary that you can watch because it's not like too specific, so you can totally enjoy the film even if you don't know who Stephen King is. So yeah.
Right. And everybody knows who Stephen King is, and I would love nothing more to be able to discover him all over again.
Oh yeah.
And that's kind of, I felt like I did a little bit with King on screen. So it's, it was a treat for even somebody that's, as huge a horror fan as I am. Is like King is the best. He is the top, So being able to hear the things about him and the things that went on private it was great.
Oh.
And I'm so happy that people get to see this. Speaking of, what date do people get to see this?
On what day? I think it will be released on the 11th this month. So August, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you for, being with us and taking the time to talk with us. And, like I said, I loved it. I think it's fantastic. And I know our readers are going to love it. So, but, it was a pleasure, and thank you. And hopefully you'll do something and we can get a chance to talk again.
Yeah, absolutely.